I went to sports because I loved sports and it was an outlet. It really became something that distracted me from the tragedy, from the loss. And then I just started to really thrive in it and blossom in it. And most importantly, I think just my personality developed in the sense of wanting to be a good person, wanting to do good and do right for people and to give back and to understand that we don't know how long we're on this earth, but to maximize our presence here.
Welcome to Engage Presents. I'm Engage co-founder and president Jake Olson. In this interview series, I ask Engage talent the most common questions we hear from event planners to help you get to know them and their stories in 15 minutes or less. Thanks for listening. Welcome to another episode of Engage Presents. I am Engage President Jake Olson. Alongside me today, Jeff Garcia. Jeff, it's so good to have a fellow football player along with me. Usually I don't get that on these interviews. So again, I appreciate you being one of a kind here.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to Engage and to your clients out there that are interested in potentially hiring me to be a speaker for them.
Absolutely. Jeff is a former CFL and NFL quarterback, a four-time Pro Bowler. Jeff, you went undrafted. You went and did somewhat of what used to be kind of a path people took forward from that free agency role, which is go play up in Canada before coming back to the NFL. So kind of explain that trip you made by doing that and what kept you motivated through some of the disappointments or just the challenges that wasn't the easy path going forward of getting drafted and playing for an NFL team right away.
I mean, it's really been the story of my life, overcoming adversity, overcoming certain challenges. I think we all meet certain challenges differently in our lives. And for me, being the underdog, never really looked at as that ideal fit, really having to force my way in, so to speak, and coming in through somewhat of the back door, coming from the CFL to the NFL. Coming out of college, I was a highly decorated quarterback at San Jose State University, but at that time, at that level of play, just wasn't getting the looks from the NFL. And my only opportunity was to go to Canada and to continue to do something that I love doing. And that's really what it came down to. I love the game of football. I wanted to play football. It didn't matter where I was getting that opportunity to play, whether it was in Europe, Canada, in the streets. I just wanted to play football. And that's what Calgary and the Canadian Football League gave me that chance to go up, be a part of a team, earn my way onto that team, first of all, and then learn from a great quarterback in Doug Flutie, one of the all-time greats in the CFL, a Hall of Famer. Gave me a chance to watch him for a year and a half before I stepped on the field. And really, for me, it's about taking advantage of opportunity. Throughout life, we're given a brief number of opportunities, and are you prepared and ready to take advantage of that? And that's where I feel like I've been able to differentiate myself from other guys who may have been more talented or who may have gotten the accolades. But for me, it was about shining in that moment and proving that I belong. And that's what the CFL gave me an opportunity to do. It led to the transition into the NFL, which led to an 11-year NFL career, and I'm highly thankful and grateful for it all. But I also proved that they missed the boat the first time when they didn't give me the opportunity.
So love that, Jeff. I know just for our listeners, some might not really understand the CFL is different than the NFL in some ways. I know as a long snapper myself, kicking field goals is a little different in that I think when you miss a kick, you can still earn a point if it goes past a certain, which it still blows my mind. But was there anything that surprised you as a quarterback where you're just like, wow, this is unlike, NCAA football and NFL football as we understand it in America?
Well, you have to get used to the motions, right? As a quarterback, you could have 4 or 5 guys in motion at the same time, and they could be speeding, sprinting toward the line of scrimmage. So by the time the ball is snapped, you already have them 5 yards down the field, well into their route. So that's an adjustment as a quarterback, getting used to the timing. It was just different in the CFL game compared to the NFL or collegiate game. and the size of the field, the width. You had so much room, so much more room to work with. 65 yards of
Yeah.
width as compared to 52 yards in the American game. So it just created maybe bigger windows of opportunity as a quarterback to strike, right? But once you got adjusted to some of the minor quirks of the game, at the end of the day, it was football. Hey, they're trying to hit you and take you out of the game just like they are in the States. It's physical. Uh, the object is the same to score a touchdown and get the extra points and to win games. I mean, it's all about the competition. And for me, it was just a great way to continue to play the game, man.
So you alluded to it in your kind of opening answer that there was your whole life you've learned how to overcome adversity, and that's really what defined you and your drive in life. Tell us about some early family tragedies that kind of cemented that in your mind.
Unfortunately, our family has gone through so much tragedy, and it started when I was young. I mean, even prior to myself being born in 1970, my mom carried twin girls, 7 months. Her water broke. They were born. They lived for about 10 to 12 hours back in 1968. And at that time, technology, they just didn't have the medical ability to save them. Today, probably wouldn't be a big deal. Probably would be healthy young girls after a couple months. That being said, I was born. Then my brother was born a year and 11 days later. And then I had a sister born 3 years after me. And so we were growing up together as a unit, three of us, all within 3 years. And when I was seven, tragedy struck again. I lost my brother in a drowning incident, an accident in Mammoth Lakes, the Sierra Nevadas. We were there camping as a family trip with other families, and he fell into the river unbeknownst to us. And it was too powerful for him to stay above water. A year and 2 months later, I lost my sister in another tragic accident where she fell out of the back of a pickup truck that my dad was driving on his birthday. Unfortunately, all of it is unfortunate. So, dealing with tragedy, dealing with losses at a young age. I was seven with my brother, I was eight with my sister. Unfathomable, unthinkable things that a family would have to go through. And back in 1977, 1978, I wasn't being thrown into counseling or any sort of uh, help, spiritual, medical. There was none of that back then to really guide me. And I really think in looking back, it became somewhat of a driving force in just the person that I became, not so much the athlete that I became. I went to sports because I loved sports and it was an outlet. It really became something that distracted me from the tragedy, from the loss. And then I just started to really thrive in it and blossom in it. And most importantly, I think just my personality developed in the sense of wanting to be a good person, wanting to do good and do right for people and to give back and to understand that we don't know how long we're on this earth, but to maximize our presence here.
Jeff, thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely just tremendous of what you've come through and who you are as a person. Quickly, so many people would deal with that tragedy and really not even know where to turn and would live a life of just thinking that life owed them something and ran it to the ground, ran the rest of their life into the ground. I know you said you weren't getting counseling, that those things were offered to you at that time, but what did help you get through those moments? I mean, you were such a small kid. Someone myself going through, childhood tragedy in my own way, what helped you as a kid say, hey, look, I'm not going to let this define the rest of my life in a negative way, but in a positive way.
I think I really believe family support, the love that I received from not only my parents, but my extended family, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, my cousins, just the support group that we were fortunate to have during those difficult times. And my mom's never ending, unwavering love
Mm.
for myself. And then I had two younger sisters that were born in between and just after the accidents. So she still had to be a mom. She still had to care for us. She couldn't give up on her role in life as a parent, as our mother, and just seeing her battle through that. And despite her losses, put that aside to still be present in our lives was a very unselfish role for her to carry on. And just feeling that, having that, knowing that, and wanting to do better for her, wanting to do better for my family. Also, being around my dad, being
Yeah.
involved in sports, being able to watch him coach the game of football at the junior college in my hometown, being able to have people even at 18, 19, 20 years old, those became my idols, my role models. I wanted to be like them. How was I going to be like those guys that were playing for my dad? Well, it starts here, playing Pop Warner football, playing Little League baseball, playing community recreation basketball, doing those sort of things that gave me a chance to compete and somewhat come out of my shell. I became a very introverted kid. I was a
Yeah.
redheaded, freckle-faced child growing up. I felt a little different, little awkward. I was a little bit quiet, little shy, and probably some of the things that I went through probably pulled me back a little bit, but sports became an outlet. It
Yeah.
became my thriving place. It became that place where I could kind of stick out my chest and compete and be accepted, so to speak.
It's amazing. I mean, it truly is amazing. Your parents seem amazing, and you took that. You know, they showed you what leadership looked like, and you took that and ran with it in your own career, in your own life. You know, not to parallel what you've gone through with a game at all, but the NFL does come, football and sports in general, but it comes with a lot of tragedy itself and games, ups and downs. You know, hard losses, hard series. I'm sure some of that translated onto the field when you were the quarterback, you were the leader of your team, and you had to will others who might not have that same mental strength on the team as you do. How did you kind of make your mindset, their mindset, and help them get over that finish line and come back in games, win games, you know, be a great team?
I was fortunate to have one of the greatest leaders growing up in my own home with my dad.
Yeah.
Just the leadership that he provided as a coach, how he inspired people to be greater than what they ever thought they could be by just believing in them. Also by challenging them to expect more out of themselves, to approach the game in a way that they continue to learn and grow both mentally and physically. And so for me to see that as a child growing up, just seeing how he led, how he really cared from the heart and really wore his emotions on his sleeve, wasn't afraid to show his emotion, wasn't afraid to crack the whip if he had to, wasn't afraid to wrap his arm around an 18, 19-year-old kid and tell him that he loved them and he knew that they had more within them. And so that was instilled in me, the work ethic, the drive, being a son of a dad who came from immigrant parents from Mexico, growing up in the fields, knowing how hard his life was growing up and what was expected out of him. And so all of those things just somewhat came together within me to where I understood the dedication, the work ethic that I had to put in things. I needed to show and lead by example. I couldn't just talk about it. I had to walk the walk and actually prove it, do it time and time again. And just being able to understand that and not take no for an answer, not allow people to tell me what I could or couldn't do, but for myself to take that as fuel to my fire and prove people wrong. And I think that just resonated in the locker room. They saw my grit, my tenacity, my emotion, how important it was, my will to succeed. And in those moments of game on the line, needing that 2 minute drive, I was able to deflect the pressure and put the pressure on the defense that I was facing and not on myself. It's on them to stop me. I had gone through the worst things in life. This is the fun aspect of my life now, the challenge to prove people wrong, to prove that they can't stop me, to prove that I can rise to the top. And along the way, I'm bringing everybody with me.
Jeff, that is amazing. I absolutely love it. Again, we thank you for sharing that message, sharing your story today. If you want to check out more of Jeff's message, please visit lessengage.com. Check out his profile. I promise you won't regret it, Jeff. You have an incredible story. You're an incredible man, incredible leader. And we just, again, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Jake. It's my pleasure. And I look forward to doing so much more of this in the future. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Stay tuned for more Engage Presents.